Hello, and welcome to Just Between You and Me. And today we're talking about empathy, part 2.
Today we're also going to say our names. I'm Michael.
And I'm Michelle. And sometimes not everything works perfectly. Woo!
Yay! So today we're talking about empathy and why is empathy important?
Yeah, last time we talked about what we experience empathy as. And this time we would like to dig into why it matters, because some people have been in the space where empathy is great and all, but like, what does it really matter? And for me, empathy is about deepening and creating the connection. I don't experience a connection with other people unless I can experience them being empathetic to me and me being empathetic to them, and like having that experience back and forth. Like for me, that like there's no connection created without some level of empathy and understanding.
So what I'm hearing you say is one of the foundational building blocks for connection between you and another person is empathy. Yeah,
and I experience a lot of others feeling similar.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. One of the greatest values I see in empathy is a backbone in creating understanding between people. It's another thing to logically understand. It's another thing to feel where they're coming from. And that process requires empathy. A lot can come out of that. It can be a motivation to take action to support that person, or to shift something in ourselves, or to build something do something like co-creation with a person. Like, it all the motivation, all the desires can start with empathy. Yeah,
and I think a lot of issues that come up in our world right now could be helped along by the creation of empathy between the responsible parties.
I would further that statement to say that most conflict amongst people can be resolved through empathetic communication. So communication quite literally creates empathy and creates that understanding of where the person's coming from, which means getting self out of the way enough to create empathy for a person's experience, even if we disagree with it or don't resonate with it, which is quite literally what I look down on politicians for not being able to do. It is quite literally what I've struggled to do in our connection. Notice
when you judge others, there is probably something present in you.
Notice.
Something to notice. This is also why empathy is important, because it's creating empathy not just for others, but for ourselves as well.
Yeah.
And really creating the space for us to go deeper with us, not just with others.
And that's been the biggest challenge, is creating empathy in the attempt to create empathy for myself. There's been no empathy created for you. And figuring out how to do that for me has been like, when in our connection, it's looked like when you are having an experience, when you're triggered, you're frustrated, you're upset, or sad. Creating empathy for you doesn't start with creating empathy for me first. Not in those moments. If I was sad first, it'd be one thing. But when you're sad first, it's like you're the one in need of support. And the way for me to do that is not figure out that what she's experiencing is also what I'm experiencing, and I need empathy for that. It's figure out what she's experiencing and communicate empathy for her.
Yeah, it's fascinating because the experience of empathy sometimes for people looks like, well, I feel that too. And that actually that's not experienced as empathy, that's experienced as commandeering of emotion. And that's a pretty, I'm not going to say that's an exact for everyone, but it's a generality. Like, if you just say, well, I feel that too, what you're actually doing is making their emotion about you rather than actually experiencing, understanding, and empathy for them.
And while there may be a level of connection there's a much higher possibility available in the experience of, wow, I really see what you're going through, and I really feel for you, and I feel for you, because being able to say that and like come from your heart in that.
Yeah. And so I think the real nugget of why here is it creates deeper intimacy. It creates deeper connection and deeper possibility in connection.
Yeah.
Empathy, most of us, because of the way our brains are wired, brain science, we actually respond more to people who express empathy towards us. We respond better and more empathetic towards them when they express empathy towards us. And it's actually hardwired in our in our minds and our brains, the way our brains work. We'll actually, even if it's like less beneficial for us, we will connect with people who are more empathetic, even if overall we could get more or have more or whatever, if we connected with somebody who wasn't empathetic with us.
So what I'm hearing you ultimately say there is people care about people who care. People want to connect with people who care, and it's like a natural gravitation.
Yeah, there's a natural gravitation there. So that's kind of the why as to why empathy is important or why it might matter. And yeah, I feel like we've kind of covered a good roundness of it.
Yeah.
Anything else before we wrap up?
I feel complete.
Cool.
Yeah.
So thank you again for joining us on Just Between You and Me. If you have any comments about empathy or why it's important to you, leave that in the comment section down below. And if you want to contact us via any of our social media or our email, that's in the description section down below.
Yep. Remember to like, share, subscribe. And thank you all very much for watching us today on Just Between You and Me. I'm Michael.
And I'm Michelle. And we'll see you next time.
Mwah.